Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're tuning in. This is an off-season special edition of Tailgate Trash Talk, brought to you by Backyard Sports. I got Bentley with me. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. It's been a while, but here we are. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man, has been a little bit. Appreciate anybody out there that can tune in. Your patience with us as we iron out some adult responsibilities and life just coming at us in the off season.
Yeah.
We don't get to set aside as dedicated a time in the off season, try to catch up on other things. But this week we are talking our top 5 favorite players to watch. Now, not by any stretch are we trying to say these are the 5 best college football players that ever played, right? While some of these folks can probably be in that conversation, a few of these folks are just those guys that we thought we enjoyed watching, the ones that were electric, the ones that made big plays, the ones that lit it up on the football field for their college team. But before we dive into our top 5, I first want to ask you, Bentley, what is it that sets a player apart? I know I mentioned a few things like guys that are electric on the field, make big plays, but what are some of the characteristics you look for in these players that make it so you enjoy watching them and they make this list for you?
Well, they have to play for the University of South Carolina.
First and foremost.
Yeah. It may be the off season, but I'm still firing on all cylinders. No, so similarly to the things we've expressed, you and I, about why we enjoy college football, so much of around it, like around the sport and what makes it great, is the fanfare, the pageantry, the storylines, the exclusivity, if you will, because there's fewer games, so like each one just kind of means a little bit more. So for me, I'm looking for the guys who obviously light it up on the field, but are also characters off the field, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily be like this dude's hilarious in the media, or this dude went to the University of Georgia, so he has 7 speeding tickets, or like this dude stole a laptop and got kicked out of college, or this guy stole crab legs. Like, it could be any combination of those things, right? It just has to be somebody that grips the national spotlight and kind of like holds on to it. Like Tim Tebow is, I'm sure his name is going to be mentioned at some point tonight, right? Like Tim Tebow captivated a nation because we saw blood coming out of his face, and he said, "I promise to work harder than you've ever seen anybody work in your entire life." Conversely, a guy who played at the same school as him, Cam Newton, never made a speech like that, but is one of the greatest college football players we've ever seen. And like, those are two polarizingly opposite guys, but they are two of the most electric players that we've ever seen come across the gridiron in the sport of college football. And they were characters off the field for totally different reasons, right? Like, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's like, this is somebody who flashes on the field as well as off the field and has captivated the nation as a whole. And that's why they're just some of our favorite and most nostalgic guys to even think about going back in sports.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Tebow in that passionate speech, not to mention how he had to manage his own faith and his discipline and his own morals with that team. That team that he was on, the criminal, murderous, drug-addled Florida Gators under
Racist.
Urban Meyer. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, for sure. So, well, let's jump into. We've got a list of honorable mention folks that we're going to start with. We were chatting about this list, and we kind of said, like, at some point we have to stop with the honorable mentions because we could, like, 50, 100, 200. There's a lot of guys that have been on a football field, on a college football field, that were very, very fun to watch, stuck out for one reason or another. But, just kind of down the list, I mentioned David Pollock. I first want to start by shouting him and his family out. His wife is going through a battle with brain cancer. It sounds like they had a very successful surgery a month ago. I have not seen another update since, but to him and his family, keep up the fight. Hopefully everything is going well with that. I know David is he's very private about his personal life. So for him to share something like that was a big thing for him, but also just a little bit of support for him. But he was a 3-time All-American. He was a very high draft pick, and he was kind of a can't miss NFL prospect until he got hurt.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, at Georgia, he was unblockable. And I know I'm kind of dating myself here because I am his age. He's only a year and a half older than me. But watching him as a young adult, as a 18, 19, 20-year-old, he was just unbelievable on the football field. So wanted to shout him out. I know you got a couple of Gamecocks here, so I'll pass it your way. Talk to me about Mr. Clowney and Mr. Lapp.
I mean, well, first off, yeah, thoughts and prayers with the Pollock family, absolutely, 100%. Cancer sucks. I think everybody has been affected by it at some point in their life. So prayers for them. That being said, Marcus Lattimore, he didn't have to battle cancer, but boy, did he have his own trials and tribulations when he was at the University of South Carolina. I have it actually up here. I believe it was his sophomore and his junior. Yeah, so his freshman year, he rushed for 1,197 yards, so almost 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns as a freshman for the University of South Carolina in that Steve Spurrier offense.
Steve Spurrier offense.
Yep, and they like to toss that ball around.
That's how explosive you have to be at the running back position in that offense.
Exactly. 19 touchdowns from scrimmage that year, and then comes back his sophomore year is I'm not going to say on a record-setting pace, but he's on like a Heisman finalist pace, and blows out his ACL in week 7. And it's like, all right, man, tough, but like we've seen it happen before. You can come back, you'll be all right. Comes back for his junior year, once again on pace to be like a Heisman finalist. Headed to New York, blows out the other ACL after week 9, and it's like, man, just the things that could have been with him. You just really feel bad. Obviously, I'm biased because he was playing for the team that I'm a fan of, but like, even to see that if it had been a Georgia guy, like I'd have felt bad for him. You know what I mean? Probably not a Clemson player, I wouldn't have felt bad for, but if he was a dog, I might have felt bad for him. But like just brutal to see such an explosive guy, because he truly was. And you can give me your perspective as an outsider just watching it happen. Like, you tell me if you saw something differently, but that's a guy who was headed to New York 2 years in a row and then got cut down.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a guy that was going to be a big time NFL running back because he could do it all. He was even good in pass block, right? Mm-hmm. Pass protection. So to be in a Spurrier offense, you've got to be good in the pass game as a running back because they do throw to the running backs in that offense. But he was just with the ball in his hands. He was explosive. He wasn't a jitterbug like some of the other running backs we're going to talk about on this list, but he was big, he was powerful, and he could make you miss with his speed. He could take away angles because you just don't, at his size, he was a guy that had better speed than you would expect. I do want to say like that the second injury is up there with like Willis McGahee, like horrific, horrendous. And it was clear that one is the one that sapped his NFL career because he never really recovered any of the explosiveness. I know he went to the Niners and he kind of bounced around to a couple different places, but just never recaptured what it was that made him so great. And I agree with you 100%. I think he was going to be in New York both years. And that was back when running backs could still win the Heisman, right?
Yeah, right.
Nowadays it's quarterbacks, or you got to, Travis Hunter obviously broke that mold, but there wasn't really a quarterback that, was up there, with him on that stage. So, Lattimore was a fun guy to watch. He was one of my, at the time, I liked his style. I like guys that run like that. And we've got Adrian Peterson down in the bottom right corner here, another honorable mention. Similar styles. I think AP was a little bit more explosive, maybe a higher top end speed, but similar styles. They run at you, run over you, and they could make you miss with some of their explosiveness. And it just tragically unfortunate that he wasn't able to continue on with his career. In the end, it tells you how good he was, though, that like he still made an NFL roster after two bad knee injuries, and one that like completely just shredded his entire knee. The second one was so bad. But yeah, that speaks a lot to who he was and how talented he was that he still made it to the NFL.
Yep. 2012 against Tennessee. I'll never forget it.
Yeah. Oh.
Got his knee bent backwards and sideways, and just that was painful to watch on the television. But the other Gamecock on this list, a guy who didn't really battle injuries, had 13 sacks as a sophomore, a true sophomore. Kind of makes you think about another edge rusher who plays for the University of South Carolina currently going into his sophomore season. I don't know. Finished, I believe, I have it over here. He finished 6th in the Heisman as a defensive end.
Explicitly a defensive end too. Yep. Like he didn't no gimmicks, no gadgets. He was just a defensive end and made it to New York.
Yes. He was obviously a freak. Number 1 overall pick to the Houston Texans. Some people say he had an underwhelming NFL career, but like I think if you were to take his career in its totality and watch his play on the field, you realize that in the NFL specifically, he's better as a run defender than he is a pass defender. But he also is like a multi-year double-digit sack guy in the NFL. Yeah. So like, was it really disappointing? Whatever. All of that aside, Jadeveon Clowney has the most electric play in college football history, and I will not hear otherwise. I do not care. Outback Bowl against Michigan. Michael Hart is the running back. Taylor Lewan is the left tackle. He misses his block entirely. It was right after South Carolina turned the ball over on downs because they got a bad spot from the fucking chain gang.
Yeah.
Mike Tirico was on the call, and he's like, man, I don't know how – I believe it was Mike Tirico and John Gruden, actually. They were like, man, I don't know how they missed that call. Clowney, there's a handoff to the left. They hand the ball to Hart. Clowney blows through the line. Maybe a penalty in today's game because it kind of leads with the crown of his helmet, but he hits Michael Hart.
The targeting penalty today.
Yeah, like hits Hart right in the chest. Ball pops out. Clowney jumps on the ball. It's fucking electric. And then Tirico goes, South Carolina deserves to have the ball, and they do. And just the whole play, the call, everything is iconic. It's my favorite football play of all time. I think probably second only to like Odell's catch. Those two, like, there's obviously 1,000 plays I could talk about, but like those are the two that really like because of the spectacular nature, the point in the game. But this one for me really, really, really is like I love that play so much. And Clowney, like they should retire the number 7 at the University of South Carolina. I know that you have to have 1,000 numbers, but like retire the 7, dude. Just retire it.
Yeah. Listen, you're right about his NFL career. I think being the top pick is sometimes comes with a bit more hype than, maybe is deserving sometimes. Other guys have been great in that. Myles Garrett is namably one. He's been awesome, but Clowney was great. I think the biggest thing is without the play against Michigan, people might not expect as much from him in the NFL because I think it put him on everybody's radar. But, without that play, maybe he's, viewed as a good, not great or whatever NFL player. But, yeah, it's hard to think of another play that just brings the amount of juice and electricity that, that play brings. It, maybe the Auburn return with the call because the Auburn call is so good. It brings a lot of that juice. But from a play perspective, I can't really think of off the top of my head, especially any play that I've ever watched that just made you like react the way that I reacted when I saw that. It was unbelievable for sure. Moving around the list here, we got Lamar Jackson, very electric quarterback. You mentioned Tim Tebow. He makes the honorable mention list here. The iconic photo there where he's got all of the paint from the field on his jersey. Very rainy, very wet game there. Devontae Smith.
Yep.
Kind of good. Won a Heisman.
Good. I think he would have set a single game record if he didn't jam his finger like right before the half in the national title game.
Yeah. He was part of that big play that Tua made against Georgia as well. Unknown guy at the time, but became very well known. Justin Blackmon. He was
stud.
Jesus, he just so big and physical. He reminded me of Terrell Owens. That's who I always compared him to, or Terrell Owens. I guess Terrell Davis, whatever. Terrell Owens. No disrespect to you. But yeah, that's who Justin Blackmon really reminded me of. He was just so big and physical with guys, good speed, very good hands. Bottom middle, no disrespect to Colt McCoy here, but we shouted out Ndamukong Suh, who was a dominator, man.
Yeah.
A dominator in the middle of that Nebraska defense. Todd Gurley, another one of those running backs, very explosive, went on to have a great NFL career.
Todd Gurley has the biggest thighs and hamstrings, like the biggest legs I've ever seen on a running back ever. Probably, maybe like Jerome Bettis, but Todd Gurley's was 100% muscle because he was about 7% body fat. Yeah. I mean, and 7 might be on the high side. That dude's legs.
If even that.
I watched him play in person the Georgia Tech game, so the Saturday after Thanksgiving. The last year he was there, and oh my God, like he's so freakishly just like was out muscling and outsizing the guys on that Georgia Tech team. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Went on to do the same thing in the NFL too.
Yep.
Fun fact, I believe he is also still younger than like a bunch of the rookies in the NFL. So
yeah, he's like 25.
Yeah, he's only 25 years old. Like rookie quarterbacks came in. That's not going to be true for very much longer. Although the transfer portal maybe, but transfer portal and COVID years and all that, we might still have some guys. But yeah, it is always a fun fact during the draft to point out the fact that Todd Gurley's been to a Super Bowl, won a rushing title, played 5 years, 6 years in the NFL, something like 4 years in the NFL, cashed in a bunch of money, and it's still younger than like guys coming out of college. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Soon won't be true, but wild how long we've been able to say that.
Yep.
Percy Harvin is one I mentioned. He was a guy who I always felt like he was a guy that no matter what you had to do, you had to get the ball in his hands. Little bit of dropsies at times, not the most sure-handed wide receiver, but man, if you got the ball in his hands, he could just devastate defenses. And it was like he could do everything. He was a powerful runner. He was a very nimble and agile runner as well. He could make you miss laterally, but he could disappear on you down the field as well. I think the problems he had with migraines and some of the issues he had maybe character-wise shortened his NFL career. But he was so great at Florida, just a guy that when he got the ball in his hands, you kind of held your breath because you just didn't know what was coming.
Yep.
Andrew Luck and Colt Brennan there, I guess top and bottom there. Andrew Luck, the most highly rated high school prospect, most highly rated college prospect maybe we'll ever see. Shout out Andrew Luck, the GM of the Stanford football program now. He's back in Palo Alto.
New coach.
Yeah. And then Colt Brennan, you mentioned him, and I felt very bad internally that I forgot Colt Brennan because I literally would play EA Sports college football dynasties with Hawaii when he was there. I ran a dynasty, exported the draft class, drafted him to Washington, won a Super Bowl with him as like an 82 overall quarterback because he only topped out like low 80s. He was awesome to watch, but I'll pass your way. Talk Colt Brennan. You're the one that brought him up.
He forgive me for not remembering the year off the top of my head, but I believe it was his senior year. He set the record for most passing touchdowns in a season, or maybe it was career. I think it was career because Dylan Gabriel just passed it with Oregon this year for passing touchdowns in college career. I think I'm remembering that correctly. But yeah, they ran that fucking run and gun offense out there, and it was all gun and not a lot of run. But he was just electric on that field, man. The Rainbow Warriors, they were incredible when he was there. I'm pretty sure he's a local guy, and he kind of like stayed home to play ball at the University of Hawaii. He's a kid that probably could have played like anywhere on the West Coast he wanted to, whether it's Southern Cal or Berkeley or UCLA, where like Arizona, even they get a lot of guys out of Hawaii. He was just an incredible college football player. And this was back in the day when like Pac-12 After Dark was a real thing. But then there was also like Hawaii after the Pac-12 After Dark. So it'd be like 2:30 in the morning. And you're like, oh, dude, the whole second half of this Hawaii game is going on. Like, let's fucking go.
I'm young enough to stay out this late still.
Yeah, like I could still wake up in the morning doing my chores. Like, let's get it, Just an incredibly talented guy. to watch play college football. His competition was not the greatest, but he put on a show every time he stepped on the field. It was super, super fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And you were right about season. He set the season mark with 58. Unbelievable year. Joe Burrow passed that with 60.
That's what it was, yeah.
And then Bailey Zappi.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah.
Passed him with 62 for Western Kentucky. Another fun running gun. But June Jones, I want to just mention June Jones. Colt Brennan was like the prototypical quarterback for the June Jones offense.
Yep.
Which actually ended up hurting his draft stock, unfortunately. I think if Colt Brennan had been 10 years later, I think he would have been a pretty solid NFL prospect. He was a little bit diminutive, not a big guy.
Yeah.
And I think the NFL has adopted a little more of the college game to it. And I think Colt Brennan's a guy that could have pulled the trigger for a team that was willing to really lean into it, maybe. I don't know. Yep. Would it need a lot? I can promise you the Washington, at the time, Redskins leaned heavily into the Colt Brennan pulling the trigger for an NFL team. So,
well, he could probably win a Super Bowl with the Eagles right now.
Yeah, probably could.
Doesn't take much to do that.
Yeah, with the lines on each side there for sure. But yeah, and I didn't use the picture because I thought the football flip was a little bit neater, but his iconic visor that he wore as well was always a fun thing.
Yep.
But yeah,
the dark visor.
The dark visor. A lot of fun down there for the Rainbow Warriors. Top right though, passing it your way. I got them both in one picture here. West Virginia had a pretty electric offense for a while there with Rich Rod.
Yeah. Pat White, Steve Slayton, two guys. You mentioned it with Tavon Austin. Like when he gets the ball, you kind of hold your breath. It was that way every play with this team because they ran that speed option, the speed option, the read option. And then Pat White would also throw the ball deep on occasion. But like those two guys were the center of that offense. I watched them as often as I could. For some reason, I couldn't find a ton of West Virginia games on national television in the state of Virginia. But whatever. I watched them as often as I could. I would always go whenever my parents allowed me, because I'm going to date myself here. Whenever my parents allowed me on the internet, I'd go watch like the highlights of their games. I'd read their the box scores in the newspaper and stuff. Like any chance I had, I was consuming Pat White, Steve Slayton content, and they were just electric, dude. Like that's the commonality between all these guys on this page. All of them were electric. And they were just awesome. That was part of the, I'm not going to say golden age of college football because it's kind of all of it is the golden age of college football for someone like me and for like you, but like that's a team that you remember just being like, oh my God, dude, they're going to score 58 points today. It's going to be awesome. And Richard, I mean, that was where Rich Rod kind of cut his teeth as a head coach, right? Like that was his first big time coaching gig. And now he's been coaching ever since. And he's back. Yeah, he's back. He's back. He may not have had like the grand success that he was looking for there, but it's never too late.
It's hard when Michigan comes calling to turn him down.
Yep.
A program like that. All right. Well, let's get to our top 5. So at number 5, you, sir, have the aforementioned Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Mr. Laptop JUCO National Championship, transfer to Auburn, and go win a natty with the Tigers. Talk to me about Cam Newton.
So Cam Newton really only played like 1 year of college football. I guess like Division I college football, maybe 2, because he played 5 games as a freshman and 7 games as a sophomore, and then was kicked off campus at the University of Florida. So if you want to combine those and say he played like 1 season, but his actual only full season of college football, he won a Heisman and a national championship with a team who only had one other player on the roster playing the NFL, and that was the running back who got like a cup of coffee.
Yeah. And I'm not sure he finished the cup either.
Yeah, like it got cold before he could drink the entire thing. I mean, you could make the case that Cam Newton is the greatest college football player we've ever seen just based off his 1 year of dominance in what was at the time and still today, in my opinion, the best conference in college football. And he just kind of ran through them. He cut through them like sliced butter or like hot butter, dude. It was incredible to watch him play. I I remember watching that national championship game, sitting in a hotel room by myself, waiting for a bus to leave. Yeah, it just truly like great memories from watching Cam Newton play, and he was a phenomenal player, and still to this day has a personality that's just larger than life. So I just have nothing but like fond memories of the college experience with Cam Newton.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Cam was great. I'm not his biggest fan, kind of in general. I think some of his personality traits are a bit caustic at times. I think
Sure.
he's very quick to try to diminish and demean the success of other people. So, but when you're an alpha, I get it. Sometimes that personality comes through. However, watching him on a football field, he was unbelievable. And as you said, he carried the carcass of the Auburn Tigers to a national championship because no other NFL players on that team, really. They had one other guy take snaps in the NFL. And he beat just powerhouses. He was in the SEC, so we can start there. But he beat the best of the best, essentially. And
Marcus Mariota in Oregon.
Yeah, beat him, Heisman winner, beat Saban, and everybody else in the SEC at the time. Just it was an unbelievable run, and it was kind of out of nowhere, which is kind of Auburn's signature over the last 15 years or so. They've had a couple of upstart seasons where they've gone on to do big things, but Cam single-handedly really carried that squad, and he was just running it, throwing it, put the team on his back, run it like a running back, throw it like a quarterback.
That's
my number 5 is what's that? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that's where Superman Cam was born.
Yeah,
was on the plains in Auburn.
Yep, for sure. My number 5 is a Michael Crabtree sighting. Michael Crabtree, star wideout for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Guns up. R.I.P. Mike Leach, legend, pirate. The biggest thing for me is Michael Crabtree was awesome all through, especially during the run that Texas Tech had in the 2008 season. It really comes down to like this moment that this photo. I'm so glad somebody captured and shared this, that I was able to co-opt it, because Texas was like on their big run, right? It was during the run where they beat USC. It was during the Vince Young run. It was the Colt McCoy run. And Texas was competing for national championships. And Texas Tech was, the little brother's little brother in the state of Texas. And they had this big run. And Michael Crabtree was a big part of it. He was just this unbelievable, uncoverable wide receiver, big, strong, fast. But he was like one of the most athletic, and he made some of the toughest catches, the sideline catches. I think him and Julio Jones kind of during that era were guys that really stuck out. AJ Green maybe a bit too in the college game, of guys that like they'd make the acrobatic catch, they'd make the tough catch, but then they'd beat you after the catch as well. And this catch just signifies what Michael Crabtree was for me as an observer, as a viewer, but also like what he was to Texas Tech. And I remember watching this game and being on pins and needles, and he makes this catch on the sideline. And just like with the body control that I mentioned, like making these acrobatic catches, he just pivots on the sideline, makes the defender miss, takes it in, 4 or 5 yards out. I think he caught it around the 4, and takes it in for the biggest catch of his life, really. Unbelievable. Michael Crabtree was just so fun to watch.
Won the Triple Crown as a freshman in college.
Yep.
At almost 2,000 receiving yards and 134 catches.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, that just sums it up right there. Like that doesn't happen.
No. Silly stats.
Yeah.
Fit the Mike Leach offense perfectly. All right. Onward, upward, number 4. You've got Michael Vick, who I think if you asked 100 people our age who their top 5 was, Michael Vick is probably going to be on a good majority of people's lists. Unbelievable run at Virginia Tech. Talk to me about Michael Vick.
So he's a local guy. I always root for local guys, right? 757, Virginia, 2 up, 2 down. You know what it is. That aside, I know that you have Johnny on your screen, and I'll get to Johnny on my list. And we just talked about Cam, and Lamar Jackson was in the honorable mentions. You know, Mariota, we talked about. We mentioned him in the Cam section. He was a Heisman winner. Like what Pat Mahomes did in college, what Baker kind of did in college. All of those pale in comparison athletically. Maybe not Cam, but they're very different athletes, right?
Yeah.
Michael Vick is the fastest quarterback I've ever seen at any level. Even after he did his stint in prison and came back and played for the Eagles, like he was a blur, lighting in a football uniform. And he'd make you miss. He could go through you, and he could throw the ball a fucking country mile. He was just a strong lefty, and he led, Frank Beamer and the Virginia Tech Hokies to a national title game. Like, that doesn't happen. Virginia Tech doesn't play in national title games. They play in Orange Bowls. Like, they'll get a New Year's Six bowl every once in a while, but they don't play in national title games. And he led them to a national title berth with Frank Beamer as the coach in the state of Virginia. And I remember it so vividly, man. Just everywhere you went was fucking maroon and orange, dude. Everywhere was maroon and orange. And it was, I rooted against Virginia Tech because I got so fucking tired of it. It kind of drove me to the SEC and being a South Carolina fan. But like, I just remember it being absolutely electric and watching the games and listening to them on the radio when the TV wasn't around. Like, just, it's hard to encapsulate the grip that he had on this region because he was a local guy and everyone could rally behind it. And he, like, the dogfighting stuff aside, he was such a likable dude that, like, he and the coach were tight, and it was just absolutely incredible to be around it at the time of it happening. And then for it to display itself on the field of him just being the best player in the country. He didn't win a Heisman, but like he was one of the best players in the country. He was the most electric quarterback at the time. Like, and he was something that we really hadn't seen. Like, I think the best comparison prior to him, obviously there's comparisons now with the way the quarterback position has changed, but like Randall Cunningham was probably the closest. And I don't say that because they're both black. I say that because the way that Randall Cunningham would run the ball is different than the way that like Steve Young would run the ball, or if you go all the way back, like Arch Manning or them, like Randall Cunningham and Mike Vick had very similar run styles, but Mike Vick was such a bigger armed guy that he could also gun it 45 yards down the field on a rope and hit his like a deep crosser. I mean, it was truly, truly electric, and it was an awesome time to be like just around it in the state of Virginia and see it happening.
Yeah, for sure. Not to spoil too much, but Michael Vick will be on my list later. But yeah, just echoing just echoing what you said, but also like I wasn't living in Virginia at the time. I wasn't from the area originally, and Michael Vick was my favorite player while he was at Virginia Tech. He was the first guy that I truly started to understand when people would say like man amongst boys, because he was better than every single person on the field. It didn't matter what position. He was more athletic than everybody. You couldn't keep up with him, but he, like you said, he could unleash a 75, 80-yard bomb out of nowhere on the run, throwing it 40, 50 yards down the field on a rope. And really that Virginia Tech team was good, but he made them great and carried them to that national title game. And it is kind of a shame that, like you mentioned, he didn't win a Heisman. The highest he finished was third as well. I think the dual threat nature wasn't as highly regarded back then, because like his final year in college, he lost to Chris Weinke. I think if the voters had to do over, they would probably not give it to Chris Weinke. That was a stacked ass Florida State team, by the way.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, Michael Vick was just unbelievable, and he was a cheat code. You couldn't use him in house games in Madden because he was that much of a cheat code. Just ask the Vikings if you ever have to, think about like, was Michael Vick really as electric as people say? Carries the Atlanta Falcons to the playoffs against the Vikings, and then makes three defenders run into each other on a run down the field. He was that electric.
Yes,
for sure. My number 4, though, Johnny Football. I kind of split some hairs on this. This list was very difficult to make, if you haven't noticed from the number of honorable mentions we had. And I didn't even capture every honorable mention that we discussed. There were plenty more outside of the graphic there. I had to kind of grab, the first few that we mentioned or whatever. But this list became difficult when I realized, like, Adrian Peterson didn't make my top 5 and Johnny Manziel is number 4, because the lightning in a bottle that he captured during his time in College Station, it was unbelievable, and it was just magical, and you just knew that he was this big fucking party boy playing football as like fuck it, I got things to do on Saturday, right? Like, but he was so goddamn good at it. He was like he was Nick Saban's kryptonite. When you're Nick Saban's kryptonite, you're doing something right. And in the 2 games that he had against Bama, where he was just unbelievable, throwing the ball, running the ball, him and Mike Evans, and then like the fumble that he had, and then he throws a touchdown. Like, there's just iconic plays from Johnny Manziel, and then like getting suspended for the first half of games. Like you mentioned the whole character off the field. The dollar signs and throwing up the fucking fuck you to the NCAA. Like, he was everything that, if you're truly just there to enjoy like the game of football and just the youthfulness of college football, he was everything that you want in a player at the college level.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it didn't translate anywhere else because you can't keep those habits up at the next level. But he was unbelievable in college.
100%. He's also on my list.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving to number 3. We mentioned him briefly a moment ago. You have Tavon Austin, Mr. Electricity, really. Yes. When you want to talk about a guy who in and out, up and down, make you miss in so many ways, Tavon Austin is it. Return game, pass game, hand it to him on sweeps, get him in the backfield, just get the ball in his hands. Much like I mentioned with Percy Harvin, when you get the ball in Tavon Austin's hands, you hold your breath.
Yep, good things happen.
Yeah.
The Percy Harvin thing, right? You mentioned it, and then I talked about it with Pat White and Steve Slayton. Like, you hold your breath. He was that, and then some. Like, it was literally every single time he touches it, he could go 80 yards. He's a home run hitter from any position. He was one of the first guys that I remember being like a true like multi-positional one, because he kind of predates Percy Harvin, and football wasn't really like at this point yet. Obviously, we see it often now with like Debo is kind of like the guy now that does it, and there's some others that line up all around the field. Like, I think the kid for the Rams will do it occasionally, whose name is just escaping me. But no, not Puka. It's Tutu Atwell.
Oh, Atwell.
They'll get him on sweeps and screens and hand it to him every once in a while. But this was like the first one that I remember being that guy, and to do it at a school like West Virginia, which is like, they're always kind of around, like they're never great, but they're not often like really, really bad. Tavon was the offense for this team. 2 years, his junior and senior year, both had over 100 catches. Senior year led the nation in receptions. And that was, like I said, with him also taking handoffs as well. And that was before they counted like jet motions as pass attempts. Even if you like touch it forward, those still counted as handoffs and rushing attempts for the wide receiver. So like, if you go back and relitigate his numbers, it's probably even higher just based off of the pure number of touches and the different ways that they used him. But he was so incredible at West Virginia, just a ton of fun to watch. But I mean, to your point, like, this list is very, very difficult to make. We had to stop ourselves from just listing guys back and forth and say, hey, save it for the show. And we still, like, our honorable mention doesn't have a single player for the 2019 LSU team, which is like, oh, all right. I mean, sure. That's just that it's so incredibly difficult when you're getting to the nuts and bolts of listing out guys. I think if we did a top 5 teams to watch, they definitely make it. But yeah, the players and whatever. But Tavon, like, that's how much he spoke to me as like this guy is breaking the game of football because he's so effective at multiple positions. He was just the first one of those for me. He wasn't like a big. And I was a little younger at the time, so the off the field stuff didn't resonate as much with me at that point in time. But I don't remember him being like a big off the field dude. Social media wasn't really around. So it just speaks to his on the field electricity and how much his game really spoke to me at the time.
Yeah, for sure. Bit of a human joystick, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 for me is Reggie Bush. Again, I much like the Texas USC national championship game that we talked about, a handful of weeks ago. It was just at like a peak time for me when Reggie Bush was playing at USC, and it was part of that rivalry, right? Or part of that game. What's that?
Where did he play?
That's on me. Southern Cal. Good catch. Not the real USC, at Southern Cal. But it was really just like during that peak time for me that, like, I'm really getting into understanding the college game more. And these players, they just make more sense. Kind of why David Pollock sticks out to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is like those are the years when, like, I'm really getting into my own when it comes to watching college football. And Reggie Bush, there's just so many moments where, like, he would do something and you'd think to yourself, like, how many human beings have the wherewithal and the athletic ability to do those things? I captured this hurdling of a player, but there's several of these where, like, he makes a play on the sideline where he dives to the pylon, and it's like, man, like, you just got it. You're different when when you're able to do those things and to do it against the greatest athletes. And Southern Cal played a lot of the best competition because they were scheduling and they played in the Pac-12 when the Pac-12 was actually really good back then. And they played in BCS national championship games and big bowls, New Year's bowls. So he just kind of stuck out. It just felt different when Reggie Bush had the ball in his hands. Another guy that, like, they got it to him in a lot of ways. Didn't necessarily line up at wide receiver a lot, but they would get him kind of moving in and out of the backfield, got him on punt return and kick return sometimes. And really, especially the combination with Lendell White too, with Thunder and Lightning, he was able to really take advantage of some of these defenses. So just felt different when Reggie Bush was on the field.
Yeah, one of the first guys to get in trouble for taking money off the field after the SMU era.
Yeah.
But that aside, playing at Southern Cal, playing in the height of the Pac-12 for that kind of era, if you will.
Yeah.
The 2005 national title game, we've talked about that game on the show. Just incredible stuff. The combination of him and Lendell White, like you said, Thunder and Lightning, like, for him to stand out in a backfield that also has Lendell White in it, like, that's pretty impressive. Heisman Trophy winner. You mentioned they get it to him in different ways, not necessarily as a receiver, but like as a receiving back.
Yep.
You think in today's, like, in college football 25, right? All the running backs have different archetypes. Like, I don't know. He wouldn't be a power back, but like the other two,
an elusive receiving back.
Yeah, like he could fit both of them. You can't put Reggie Bush in a box because he's going to juke out the box and then jump over it. Like, there's no way. He was unhandleable, unguardable, unstoppable, whatever you want to call him in college. And he really lit the nation on fire, right? That was, I think, this era, the Matt Leinart, the Troy Polamalu, the Clay Matthew, was Ray Maualuga, the middle linebacker, the Reggie Bush, the Lendell White. That was, like, for me, that's the height of Southern Cal football.
Yeah.
The Pete Carroll. They obviously go way, way back. Like, they have a ton of history, but like that for me is like the peak of Southern Cal football. And he is the poster child for that era. And he's not on my list, but like, I felt bad leaving him off, and I'm glad that you have him here because he truly was fucking electric, man. Yeah. He was so good.
Yep, absolutely. All right, onward, upward, number 2. I love that you got the Honey Badger in here because he was another one. I mentioned AP a moment ago. Like I had him on my list, and then I just kind of kept trickling down and trickling down. Honey Badger is another one that like he was awesome, and I I wish I had like 15 that I could have put or whatever, and I could have caught more, but we limited it to 5. And I'm gonna pass it your way. Talk to me about the Honey Badger.
So the Honey Badger, you remember like in our open, I talked about on and off field stuff, right?
Yep.
Honey Badger is a guy, and if anybody knows the story, like his story, he's battled a ton of adversity off the field, a lot of like home stuff, and as well as like personal struggles that he's had. And throughout all of that, he has maintained such a high level of play all the way through. Like even to this day, he's one of the he's not the best anymore, but like he's one of the better safeties that you can have in the NFL. And he was so fucking good in college, dude. Like you think about schools that give out numbers and 2 of them jump to the head, right? You have number 11 at Penn State.
Yep.
Abdul Carter just wore it. Going to be a number, I don't know, 3 overall pick, whatever. By the way, LeVar Arrington's kid is wearing number 11 for Penn State next year. Just something to keep an eye on going into the season.
Yeah. He's as big as his dad, and they say he's more athletic than his dad.
Yeah. Scary stuff.
I can tell you that's a scary statement because I watched LeVar Arrington at Fan Appreciation Day back when they were at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. Literally reach up and put his armpits on the field goal post. If you're more athletic than that, I'm not really sure what to expect.
Yeah. So Penn State gives out number 11. LSU and the vaunted SEC gives out number 7.
Yep.
And this guy right here, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, were number 7. Yep. And he was like a hybrid safety. I don't know if you remember Stryker, who played for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
His last name was Stryker.
Yep.
I was a big fan of his. There was Scooby Wright III that played at Arizona. Yep. They're like these tweener safety, like in the box. Jamal Adams did a lot of this, also for LSU. Yep. Tyrann is the best of all of those guys.
Oh yeah.
His sophomore season, he finished 5th in the Heisman as a tweener, like blitz safety cover guy. Like he returned punts for them, he returned kickoffs for them. He played every position that you imaginable on the defensive side, except for like defensive tackle and maybe middle linebacker. But he lined up everywhere else on the field, and was just so like he was so interactive with the crowd. He loved being with the like in the fans. The guy was just fucking awesome and so good at football. He like we talk about human joystick you mentioned with Tavon Austin, lightning in a bottle with Percy Harvin. Like he was all of those things as a defensive player. Like if he comes on a late blitz, he's not getting touched. Like he's getting to the quarterback or he's making a chase down tackle on your running back who's trying to string it outside the tackles. Like that's what's happening when Tyrann Mathieu is playing defense on the other side of you. Like he struck fear into the hearts of opposing offensive coordinators, and they would stay up at night trying to game plan for where number 7 is going to be lined up on that defense. And it still didn't matter because where he lined up was not where he was going to finish that play, because he was so fucking fast and so smart at reading offenses that he was going to make the play. He was going to have the recognition. He would just be in the right place at the right time almost every single time that ball was snapped. And I love just like his story of the perseverance and the struggle that he went through, combined with him being like a fan favorite and finished 5th in the Heisman, Gary, 5th in the Heisman as a tweener. Like that doesn't happen. He's so good. I think he's one of those guys, and I'm glad that you appreciate him being on that list, but he's one of those guys I think gets lost to time because there's been so many good guys coming out of the SEC, specifically LSU even, that like people just don't think about Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah.
But this was like the height of my like I was really like South Carolina was really good at the time, right? So I was like deep into the SEC, which is a common theme in my list, but whatever, that aside. I was just so into the SEC and like all the top end players that were there and he just stood out amongst all the defensive players. And he was so good. And I loved everything about Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah. You can't say enough about him. You mentioned the hybrid and kind of where they would use him all over the field. He was like the star position before the star position became a thing on defense. He was unbelievable. Everywhere, Swiss Army knife, could play every position, could cover in man and play safety and get in the box and make tackles and blitz and just disrupt your entire offense. You mentioned people losing sleep, offensive coordinators. I can't imagine much sleep at all ever when you're facing LSU's defense with number 7 on the other side. One story about that as well, to just piggyback on that, is the video from the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl with Brady having a conversation with Matthew. They talked a little shit to each other, but then they had the conversation after of like, just kind of respect. And I always have to find where you are on the field. And they played against each other, throughout the years, not a ton against each other because Tyron went to the Cardinals first and Brady was obviously in the AFC. But when the GOAT gives you your flowers, you've done something pretty good in the NFL. But yeah, just electric guy in college. And you mentioned the story too, right? The story kind of tops it off with the Honey Badger.
Yeah.
For me, number 2 is Vince Young, and I know my top 3 here, not to give away too much for number 1, but my top 3 come from kind of the same era, if you want to lump like an era together. Vince Young, I mentioned this game that, the run here, the pictures from the run that won the game for Texas over the juggernaut Southern Cal. They were in this crazy run, and this was the beginning of the big run that I mentioned with Michael Crabtree. Texas was starting this run, and Vince Young was like he was a mutant. He was so big, he was fast enough to make a lot of defenders miss, but he was just like savvy, and I don't use that word too often with guys because I really like to hold on to that for folks that like. It just feels natural when they're on an athletic field or court or rink. They just have a feel for what's going on around them, and they're able to make a play no matter the situation. And it was like in this game, it just felt that way. When Texas got the ball late, I remember thinking as a I think I was 17, 18 at the time, just thinking like Texas is going to go win this game. And it was all Vince Young. He was going to take him down the field, and lo and behold, he made the run that won them the game here. But he was just so fun to watch. It was a bit of a kind of small in terms of like he wasn't necessarily a dominator over multiple years, but the year that he carried them to a national championship, he was just so good, so fun, so electric, dual threat. Not the greatest of passers necessarily, but could make plays with his arm. But Jesus Christ, he was so savvy on the football field, just making the right play when it was needed.
Yeah, he was awesome. You mentioned it, so big and so strong and fast enough. Like he didn't have to outrun you. He was just like, he didn't have to outrun you all the way down the field. He was going to outrun you as far as he needed to go. Whether that was all the way down the field or not, didn't matter. Whether he had to get to the goal line or he had to get to the first down marker, like he was going to get there. And if you caught him, he was going to run through you, or he was going to drag you in with him. Savvy is a great way to put that, because if you go back and look, like the talent on that team was not incredible. Like it was Vince and was it Jamal Charles, the running back. Like those were the two like big name guys on that team. And then they obviously had a very good team, but like, we're not talking, last year's Ohio State team.
Right.
But it was all Vince Young that 2005 season, and playing at such a big time program with the coach in Mac Brown, who was, he's the head of Texas football, dude. He's larger than life. It like, faith, family football, whatever the phrase is, that like, that's football in Texas. You know what I mean? Towns shut down, cities shut down on Friday night to watch high school football. And it's even more crazy on Saturdays in Austin when the Longhorns are playing. Like the University of Texas is so fucking big, like their fan base, that when they have a player like Vince Young, he just captures the attention of an entire nation. And that's what he did for that year in 2005. And he didn't make my list, but I'm glad that you have him on yours, because he deserves it, man. Like he was the man. He was Superman.
Yeah.
When he put on that Texas Longhorns uniform. He was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. All right, onward to number 1, and we ended up flip-flopping 1 and 4.
You know what that is, Garrett? The only thing that is right there is just age. That's all that is.
And it really is.
You're just like a couple years older than me, and that
Yep.
the peak of your getting into fandom was that era. The peak of my really, really developing a true love for college football was this era. That's all that is.
Yep. So talk to me about Johnny Football, man.
I should have I have a Johnny Football shirt upstairs. It's that I think it's that exact picture actually that you are using there, and It's on the back. It's just him doing the money signal, man.
Nice.
I know I waxed poetically about him earlier. I did Michael Vick, but I'll let you have the floor for him. Johnny Football is if you took an intramural college athlete who he goes to the school because he's a college student, but he also plays this intramural sport. Well, Johnny's intramural sport was playing SEC football, and he was the best at it.
At Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, I will never forget the game. Well, there's a couple games I won't ever forget. 2 specifically, right? That come to mind. You talked about it earlier. Going to Tuscaloosa and beating Nick Saban. I don't know if you remember this, but there used to be a narrative around Nick Saban, and I think Johnny started it. Was that the way to beat Nick Saban is to have a mobile quarterback?
Yep.
And we saw it with Deshaun Watson. We saw it with Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
It's oh man, these mobile guys. Okay, where did that start? That started with Johnny Football, who would go out, and if you watch the Netflix documentary, he would go out on Friday nights, show up to the games hungover on Saturday, and hang 45 on you like it was nothing. This man didn't study tape. He came to practice sometimes, and he would go out, and he was just the best player on the field. Now, granted, he had Mike Evans, who's a future Hall of Famer, so that helped. But the engine that drove that car was Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
And of course, all of the off the field stuff. It speaks for itself. If you have heard the name Johnny Football, you know the stories of Johnny Football. Going to Miami in the off week, signing all these autographs, just doing everything larger than the pictures of him at Halloween parties when he was in college. Yeah, there was the picture of him partying with Drake, or the video of him partying with Drake. There's the picture of him on the float in the pool with a bottle of champagne. He was a college student who just so happened to be the best player in college football as a 20-year-old redshirt freshman winning the Heisman. That's who Johnny Football was. And he did not give a fuck about what anybody thought of him. He's I'm going to live my life, and then I'm going to go out on Saturdays, and I'm going to slit people's throats. There was the number one play that I remember from Johnny Football's career. Bowl game. I don't remember which bowl game. I'm pretty sure it was – I remember the game. I don't remember the year. All right, sue me. They were playing Duke in a bowl game, and the pocket breaks down. And Johnny has to, so he's a righty, right? So he's standing left foot forward. So he has to spin. Yeah, so some people do. I mean, just so happens his day job was being the best college football player in the country. Whatever. So bowl game against Duke, Johnny standing in the pocket pressure breaks down, spins backwards, right? So he spins counterclockwise, or clockwise rather, and he's rolling to his left. And we're oh man, backyard football. Here we go. Johnny's about to do something. He kind of stops, then decides he wants to run. There's 2 Duke defenders running at him. He hurdles, sort of. He covers the ball, hurdles into the 2 Duke defenders. They hit him, and he bounces backwards. They both drop to the ground. He keeps rolling to the left and throws a touchdown to the tight end streaking to the front pylon. And I'm that's how. What do you do with that? You can't tackle him. That's just Johnny Football. He does things like that. Yeah, exactly. Tip of the cap. I mean, goddamn, how are you supposed to stop that? And this is a kid who's what, 6'1", 190?
That's
not
generous.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? This is a baseball player out here making you look like a fool on Saturday afternoons. And the way that I sure feel about Michael Vick is the way that I feel about Johnny Manziel. He's he just is above the rest of them in terms of on the field, storylines off the field. I went to Kyle Field last year at like post renovations. That stadium is incredible because of the money that Johnny Manziel brought into that program.
Yeah. And kind of what, led to Johnny sticking the middle finger up to the NCAA was the number 2 jerseys that were selling in the, the school store.
Yep.
And he just went out and signed a bunch of autographs and had his high school buddy was his manager hooking him up.
Yep. They made up that story about his dad having oil money.
Yeah, right.
All Johnny.
His dad's rich.
Nope.
Nope, not at all. He's selling his name, image, and likeness.
Just incredible stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the stories that just the fact that like football was just a pastime for him and he was so goddamn good at it. It's unbelievable. But yeah, Michael Vick, I know I talked a little bit about him earlier. I couldn't help but jump the gun a little bit, but yeah, just he was just at the time when I was really just getting into college football, really with the passion of appreciating what college football is. Watched it when I was young and like you the Nebraska days of Tommy Touchdown and
yep.
Some of the Penn State things and but really Vic was the first exposure for me of like, oh, he's different. He's different. And this is what college football can be, huh?
Yeah.
Just the electricity that he brought to the building, as much fun. He was kind of the guy, he touched the ball on every play, and you still felt like something special was going to happen just about every time he had it in his hands. So, yeah, Michael Vick, unbelievable, tops for me. And he put Virginia Tech really, kind of on the map, on the national map, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sorry, not to cut you off. I'm sorry.
You're good.
I have a very special place in my heart for Michael Vick currently. Okay. Michael Vick is the reason that Shane Beamer is the head coach at the University of South Carolina. Because Michael Vick was the most successful player to play at Virginia Tech, where Frank Beamer was the head coach.
Yeah.
And who gave Shane Beamer his introduction to college football and his first opportunity to be a coach, in which Steve Spurrier then hired him to be an assistant at South Carolina and has now come back as the head coach there. And I love that. So I have a special place in my heart for Michael Vick, not just because he's a Virginia guy, but because he's given me what I hope to be the next Steve Spurrier type run at my school.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned kind of returns to home. Michael Vick, if you don't know, is down back in the 757, back down in Tidewater, back down in Hampton Roads. He's now the head coach at Norfolk State University.
Yep.
And maybe going to put the Spartans on the map on football. They've been to the NCAA tournament, so folks that watch that might have heard of them before. I'm
not familiar with this NCAA tournament you speak of. I don't look at that behind me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah. What is that you're speaking about? The college football playoff? I don't.
Yeah. We're on to college football.
Yes, it is football season.
Oh, all right. Well, that's our list.
Can I give one more shout out?
Absolutely.
We could do 1,000 more shout outs for guys.
I was going to pass it your way for some shout outs. So jump in.
Yeah. So this is just one. I'll give this one, then I'll let you do as many as you want. One that we should have mentioned, and I cannot believe that even in our text conversation back and forth. How about Sean Taylor at the University of Miami?
Yeah.
How did we, of the two guys doing this show, how did we forget Sean Taylor?
Yeah. I got thinking of that earlier because we did mention Ed Reed. I mentioned Ed Reed.
Yep.
And I didn't end up getting him on the honorable mention slide that I put together, but I was like, Sean Taylor was pretty fucking awesome in college too.
Yeah.
That Miami team gets a little drowned out by the fact that that era of Miami had so many NFL players. I know they had the run in the early 90s as well. So folks that are a half a generation ahead of me will point to the early 90s of that's Miami football, late 80s, early 90s, the Catholics versus convicts era. But the run that they had with McGahee and Portis and Ed Reed and Sean Taylor and Will Fork was in that run, and
Andre Johnson,
Third Leg Greg, and
yeah,
Andre Johnson.
The
For
Rock.
sure. What's that?
The Rock.
The Rock, right? He played during that era. That was a hell of a run, and yeah, we did a bit of a disservice to our boy Sean Taylor, but yeah. A couple other folks on the honorable mention. I wrote a couple down. You mentioned Caleb Williams, actually, and then we talked a little bit about Christian McCaffrey, another guy who was just absolutely unbelievably electric on the field. I think that's really of our list of folks. Do you have any more that are kind of off the beaten path you want to shout out?
I'm trying to run through some in my head.
I'll tell you one.
Go ahead.
Kind of similar to the Andrew Luck Stanford connection. Toby Gerhart was fun because he was a fucking wrecking ball. Coming off of Mike Allstott and what he was in the NFL, Toby Gerhart was kind of that in college.
Yeah. I mentioned him earlier, not in our honorable mentions, though. How about Debo Williams? Or Debo Samuel. Sorry, Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
Kind of another evolution of the Tavon Austin, Percy Harvin, kind of do-it-all guy.
Yep.
And then if you want some more honorable mentions, like Sidney Rice, DJ Swearinger, Alshon Jeffrey, Stephon Gilmore, Connor Shaw, Jake Bentley, the list can go. Rocket Sanders, Kyle Kennard, I can go on and on with just Brian Edwards, the redheaded tight end who used to play for the Ravens, and then Braden Hurst. I can go on and on with those guys.
Yeah,
we can also go I these guys are probably not honorable mentions or even Pantheon guys, but Derrick Henry probably fits this mold, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned Julio Jones earlier. Yep. You got Braxton Miller was fucking electric at Ohio State.
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence won a national title as a freshman. That. That's I get it. He played at Clemson, and I hate that, but that's awesome. You know what I mean? It's not often you see that. That. Yeah. That's really cool. Elijah Moore, when he played at Purdue, that dude was freaking sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many. I'm trying to think of actual truly electric honorable mentions to be on this list. Patrick Mahomes was fucking awesome in college. He played a 55-49 game against Baker Mayfield. That's freaking.
Baker was fun. Swag, planting the flag.
Yeah,
that was fun. Ron Dane when he was at Wisconsin, just fucking bowling over everybody.
Yeah, all of the Wisconsin running backs ever.
I was gonna say Monty Ball and
yeah.
There's been a long line of folks.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, the old Samaje Perine breaking the record 1 week and then getting it broken. I'm sorry, I got that backwards.
Other way around, yeah.
Monty Ball breaks the record. Samaje Perine the following week, a record which still stands. 496, I believe, yards running the fucking ball.
Just insane stuff. Stuff.
I'm not sure you run 500 yards in 60 minutes, let alone against a defense.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that. I might not be able to walk 500 yards in 60 minutes. Give me some oxygen.
Yeah, for sure.
No, you mentioned AJ Green, in that era. AJ Green was awesome in college.
Stafford
was sick. Yeah. Demaryius Thomas and Calvin Johnson both playing at Georgia Tech randomly.
In the triple option.
Yeah, those dudes were
fun connection for Demaryius Thomas. Calvin Johnson, speaking of the Georgia Tech wide receivers. Calvin Johnson lost the high school state football player of the year to one head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay, dual threat quarterback in high school.
Yeah, man. It's just what his name is absolutely going to escape me, but the quarterback who played at Navy before their coach has left and now goes to San Jose.
He still has the career rushing touchdown record.
Yes, he does.
What the and now it's not Richardson.
No, he was. I think he was a Polynesian guy. I think. I don't remember.
Oh my goodness, this is gonna Reynolds, Keenan Reynolds.
Yes, Keenan Reynolds. Yeah.
Head coach was Polynesian. Ken
Yes.
Who's now at San Jose State running a fun and gun offense.
Yeah, triple crown winner there. Nash.
Yeah.
Put him on the list. He won a triple crown. Like.
Yeah. If he didn't play at San Jose State, we probably would have seen more of his games.
Yeah, for real. We should just shout out Darian Mensah and the quarterback who was there the year before, Michael Pratt. Not because they're electric.
Legends in the wagering game.
They're on our personal Mount Rushmores.
Yeah. My tickets liked watching them play.
Yeah. Yep. AJ McCarron's girlfriend, put her on the list.
She did get a lot of camera time. Brett Musburger was zero shame talking about her when Bama was playing. Oh,
so
she
good.
It, though. She deserved it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, special lady. Special lady.
100%. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Julius Peppers was fucking awesome at UNC.
Good lord. Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Like, there's just we could sit here until midnight just kind of thinking about guys that have been awesome in college football. Yeah. And there's more.
Watzka at Cal.
Yeah,
fun to watch.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah. Cam Rising, is he going to finish as an honorable mention?
He might play till he's 60.
Why not? Let him play.
Might as well.
Travis Hunter, is he going to be on this list 20 years from now? Like,
he might.
Just, again, not
120 plays a game.
Yeah, like you opened the show saying these are not the best players in college football, but like that dude started out at HBCU.
Right.
Not because he had to, but because he chose to.
Yeah.
And then ends up winning a Heisman, doing what you said, playing 125 snaps a game. Like, that's legendary stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeremiah Smith, I'll put him on my.
He's definitely going to be on the list in 5 years or so.
Yeah, I'll put him as an honorable mention right now.
Right now. 1 year. 1 year. Cam only played 1 year, really.
Yeah. I mean, Cam probably made more money than J.J. Smith did, but.
Sure.
Very legally.
Auburn will never admit it.
But... No, God. No. Gus Malzahn will take that one to his grave.
Oh, yeah. Cam's dad, the master negotiator.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They just got new vans for the church, dude. Relax. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Vans for money.
Yeah. I make the joke to my dad a lot that for those who don't know, my dad was a preacher for like 40 years or whatever. And during the Cam Newton like kind of saga or whatever, I was getting ready to graduate high school and go to college. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, if I had just been 6'4" and 240 pounds, you too could get a brand new fleet of vans for your church.
Yeah. I love making the joke with some of my buddies we talk basketball with. It's like, man, I wish I'd have made the decision to be 6'6" with a wet ass jumper.
Right? Like, probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
I might. Who knows? You never know. It's possible.
Maybe. All right, man. Hey, good episode. Appreciate the folks in the chat. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Appreciate those that'll tune in later. But for Bentley and everybody else here at Backyard Sports, this has been our another episode of Off-Season College Football brought to you by Tailgate Trash Talk. We are